Hi, my name is Kathleen May, and I'm part of the district behavior support team. And today we're going to be talking about behavior strategies. Before we get to talking about behavior strategies, one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention was this universal design for learning, what we call UDL aligned strategies. And you'll see that there's this little highlighted click right here. So attached to your email or your document, wherever you're watching this video, you're also going to have the PowerPoint presentation that goes along with the Screencastify video that you have going on here. So you will be able to actually click into these links. So if you click into this link, you'll have plenty of strategies for UDL, and these are going to be some strategies to help you modify some of the work or make some accommodations to work for your students. If you could see the picture really quick, I'm not going to go over UDL. All I'm going to do is talk to you about the taking away the barriers. So back in the day, we'd have equity for all, and everybody would get exactly the same strategies. And you could see for the little guy on this picture, it wasn't so equitable for him. He still couldn't see. And then we made some changes, and we did a good job on giving all of our students what they needed in order to access the curriculum. When it comes to UDL, it's trying to think a little bit beyond that and think, well, why not have no barriers at all so everybody can access at the same playing field? And what one learner needs is going to be different from another learner, and we want to make sure that they all can have access to it. So enjoy that. First thing we want to talk about when we talk about behavior strategies is motivation. How can we increase this? Because the reason why we're having behavioral issues is probably because we have a motivation issue. They don't want to do what it is that we're asking for them to do. The first thing that I wanted to talk to you about was first and then. This is a pre-MEC theory. It's when we talk and say, first, you're going to do a less preferred activity to earn a more preferred activity. So first, we're going to do our writing assignment, and then you can have access to your comic book, something that's going to be a little bit more enjoyable for them, something that's considered a reinforcer for them to be motivated to do the work. Another one of those motivation theories would be sandwich theory, and that's a preferred activity first, then you have the less preferred activity in between, and then you go back to the more preferred activity. So this again promotes motivation by saying, say I have a young student who she really likes to play with slime. I know she loves to play with slime. It's a high motivator for her, but she does not like doing math, especially math worksheets. So I say to my student, hey, listen, I would love for you to play with this slime for a little bit. You can have access to it. Then we're going to do math for a few minutes, for however long, and then I'm going to give you the slime back after you're finished with the math. So I'll let her have some feel to it. Then I put on a timer for how long we're going to work on the math, and then she gets the slime afterwards to keep her motivated through the activity. We also want to build in breaks. We have those kids that are escape artists, and they're going to do behavior to get out of an unpreferred task, a non-preferred task. So we want to make sure that we create movement breaks for them. So maybe they can't sit for 30 straight minutes at one time. So maybe we'll break it into two 15-minute chunks with a 5-minute break in between. Or we give them access to break cards and say, here, just take a break card. Whenever you need it in this 30 minutes, you can have a 5-minute break. It's up to you. We also want to create what we call a time on work and a time off work. So I could run a student's schedule the entire day to keep motivation going, where I say, hey, listen, you only have to work for 17 minutes. After the 17 minutes, the timer goes off, you could take a 5-minute break. Then we're going to work for 17 minutes and then a 5-minute break. And just knowing that a break is coming is going to help motivate a student to possibly get through a unpreferred task better without the behavioral issues that might have come before. Okay, so we've got motivation again. How can I increase this? Another way that you can increase it is with reinforcement, which is pretty much what we just talked about. So reinforcement for on-task behaviors. So if they stay on task and they remain on task and they do all the other expected behaviors desired in that class, then we could think about ways that we want to reinforce them. So think of what your student can earn for their good efforts towards the goal. Maybe they don't have to be perfect, but their efforts were really well. They've met the goal for their effort. Brainstorm students' likes and motivators. Heroize a student when they accomplish major and minor goals. And what I mean by heroize is that we want to make sure that if they accomplish their goals, that they're going to access some sort of reinforcer for the entire group. So in table points, maybe instead of my student losing table points for its group because of his squirreliness or his lack of staying on task, if he achieves his goal, like say maybe he stays on task for 8 minutes and that's all he needs to do, then he gets a table point. And it's like, whoa, Stevie's able to get table points today because he made his goal. Nobody needs to know what his goal is, but they do know that he contributed to it in some other way. So there's ways of keeping kids motivated by making them stand out and making them look like a shining star in front of other people. Speak to what you experience is going well instead of what's going wrong. So some of our kiddos do make a lot of mistakes and they have a lot of behavioral issues, and it's very easy to say their name all the time and call them when we're redirecting them and saying, oh, no, not that, do this. But maybe just focus on what they're doing well and try it for like a day or a week and see if they start getting more motivated, because I'd be more motivated to do work if somebody was giving me kudos all the time, or at least a good majority of the time. Somebody's telling me what I'm doing wrong all the time. I'm not going to even want to be around that person, let alone strive for success around that person or for that teacher. We also want to speak students' names aloud when they are being praised for doing something well, and yet keep a lower profile for all of the redirecting that we do. Maybe we might tap them on the shoulder or whisper in their ear or put a little pointer on their desk. And I might put my pointer finger on their desk and tell them prior to it that if I tap the top of your desk, it's because you're too loud and I want you to get quieter. And now I just tap the desk instead of saying, please stay quiet, Johnny, 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 Johnny. And I don't do that to the student. And that might help motivate them to stay focused a little bit more often. Little note on reinforcement. I know that you already watched the video on reinforcement. Just want to remind you that when it comes to reinforcement, we're looking towards increasing the future frequency of the expected behavior, the wanted, desired behavior, and the replacement behaviors that we want. We want to make sure that we don't accidentally reinforce the undesired behavior. So we don't want to give attention to our attention seekers, and we don't want to give escape to our escape artists. We want to for our attention seekers, focus on giving them attention when they're doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing and ignoring those other times that they're trying to seek attention with the undesired behaviors. And our escape artists, we want to make sure that we persist. You need to finish this task. I will wait for you, and not let them escape and get out of the task. So we can wait them out, but make sure they're still held accountable. They have to do it for homework. They have to do it for something else. They have to do it during another period of time that might be more reinforcing, but they're going to do it, and they're going to be expected to do it. So we want to reinforce expected behaviors only, key piece. And note, we want students to be reinforced naturally. Yes, our kiddos that are having extreme behaviors and need to be motivated, we need to contrive these motivators for them and these reinforcers for them to kind of increase the behavior, the future of the behavior. So we might have to do a lot of set reinforcers, and I'll talk about that right now, such as ways to reinforce. We can use natural and direct reinforcement. So this could be food. This could be, just the smiles. This is just natural ways of reinforcing. We can use social reinforcers, so we can talk to them, make praises. We can use activity reinforcers, such as games, computer games, playing with a classmate. We can use tangible reinforcers, which are edibles, toys, balloons, stickers, awards, and token reinforcers. So that would be, I'm going to give you 10 check marks, and at the end of 10 check marks, it's going to get you something, either an activity or a event or a tangible or something that you would like, food reinforcer, whatever it might be that you have set up with the student. So I did want to talk about growth mindset. So when it comes to working on motivating students and changing students' behaviors, we also have to change our mindset and our behavior to help these students out. And how do we go about doing that? And it's just a shift of thinking. It's making yourself or creating a space that you're going to look at your student differently. You want to look at your student with eyes of how can I support you and support your behavioral issues within this environment. How can I use some of these strategies that we've been talking about before, like the antecedent-based interventions, reinforcement, understanding the function of the behavior in order to get to the spot of understanding the student. My growth mindset is just, how can we make that shift from one way of thinking to the other way? And here's a couple examples for you, where a teacher might say he's not ready for school yet. And then growth mindset would be changing your thinking to, how can we get school ready for him? We might have a student that's really struggling in a gen ed classroom, and we might resort to, she needs to be pulled out into a separate setting. We need to get her into the learning center, or we need to have her in an SDC class. Well, maybe, how can we make sure that she has a sense of belonging right here in this gen ed class? What can we do in our gen ed space that's going to pull our student in to be successful? How can we use our UDL strategies, or how can we create the environment that's going to make that student more successful? So it's just changing your mindset. And I love down here, it says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So you give it water, you fertilize it, you fix the soil, you do things to make that flower grow. And we want to think of our students like that. And then here's a little quote from me. Changing the way one thinks about a student can make the difference needed for a student to succeed. Man, if a student knows that you have that you're on their side, that you care about them, and that you are going to help work through their behavior, that's issues that are going on, that this isn't about who they are, this is about how they react. And I'm going to help you with your reactions to how you're feeling. And that's going to be a huge growth mindset and a huge space for your students. So think about that. So let's go into strategies. So the first thing when we talk about strategies, we need to define and teach clear expected behaviors. And I just put a couple examples here of expected behaviors, how I clearly write it up. And when you get an opportunity, please click into these resources that we have up here that'll give you some examples. And if you make a copy, you can manipulate these for your students. One thing I just wanted to mention about defining clear expected behaviors. These are the rules. These are your goals. This is your replacement behaviors, what you want for the students. Sometimes we do need to teach in a larger group setting, or in a smaller group setting, or even an individual setting, what are the expected behaviors for say, working over in this area of the classroom as opposed to what the expected behaviors are in this particular area of the classroom. And remember, expected behavior versus unexpected behavior is got the language is important because it's not about right or wrong, good or bad, inappropriate to appropriate. It's about in certain situations, I have expected and unexpected behaviors. Just like when I'm in a classroom, in a fifth grade classroom, I'm a student in the classroom. When the teachers are around or the noon duties around, I know I should not use curse words. It's not expected when there's an adult standing right there, and I can't do it inside my classroom. Yet, when I'm out on the playground and I'm in a little group of 4 or 5 guys and we're hanging out, it is more expected for me to use curse words in that environment as long as there's no adults. So cursing isn't necessarily right or wrong. It depends on the situation that I'm in, where it's expected versus unexpected. And if I use that language, expected versus unexpected, I am also going to be promoting less defense mechanisms. I'm going to be, if somebody says that's wrong, I'm going to get triggered. But if somebody says that's unexpected, not in this environment, this is what's more expected in this environment, that would be much, much more soothing for a student to digest and understand without getting defensive. All of us, we could all use that language. All right, so how do we get students to change behaviors from unexpected to expected behaviors? Well, the first thing is that you do need to figure out the function of the unexpected behaviors. Are they trying to get something, which is an object, preferred activity, or attention? So that's that access piece. I'm trying to get to something. Or am I trying to get away? Am I escaping or avoiding a non-preferred activity, person, or object? So in order to get something, if the student's goal is to get something with their behavior, I need to withhold. I have to withhold the object, the preferred activity, or the attention. And then until the unpreferred activity is complete or attempted for established time. So I need to make sure that it's withheld. And then give supports to help through the unpreferred activity. I might need to reinforce expected on-task behaviors. I might have to reinforce the replacement behaviors. But I'm going to need to withhold that attention or withhold that object until they do what they need to do. And then I can give that to them. I can give them access. And it's more as a reinforcer. And a good way of doing that is like first and then language. First, I need you to do this, then you can access that. Or first you do this, and now I can come over and give you attention and answer your questions and do what it is that you would like me to do. So remember, first and then always talks about doing a less preferred activity then to a more preferred. And it keeps a student motivated to get through an undesired or a non-preferred task. And then if I have a kid that's trying to get away or escape or avoid, I need to build in escapes as break cards, time on versus time off schedules where they work for a little bit. Then they know that they have a specific time off to do some more preferred activities afterwards. And I have to make sure that I reinforce the expected and on-task behaviors, okay? And then also those replacement behaviors. And what I mean by replacement behaviors is that if I have a kid that's calling out and screaming, yo, 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 teacher, 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 I'm going to ignore that. But I'm going to teach my student if they raise their hand, the second they raise their hand, or within a good amount of time, but pretty quick for our new learners, I'm going to give you attention if you do that. And if they use that replacement behavior, I'm going to make sure that I reinforce that, you know what, I think you did such a great job raising your hand. Awesome work. Here's your check mark. You're on your way to your reinforcer. So now we have to talk about how to reinforce expected behaviors. Well, there's a variety of different ways that teachers do this. And one way is by having a whole class behavior system. Teachers, school programs, any kind of bus drivers, bus systems, any kind of a system should have a whole group, excuse me, a whole group behavioral system. So what is being used in the classroom, or what are you using? So you need to look at those things. And if you're, somebody that's assisting in a classroom, what is the teacher using? Is she using a clip system? Is she using a ticket system, a turn card system? Are we putting fuzzies in a jar? Are we using table points? What's the system being used that's helping the entire class understand the rules of the classroom and understand what the consequences are going to be? And when I say consequences, what is the rewards going to be? And what are the punishments are going to be if they did not obtain their goal for the day? So here's just a couple videos and a couple ideas on these two systems. We're not promoting these systems at all. We are promoting that you always have a whole class behavior system in place, and you make sure that you put a reminder system so that they're fair and equitable for everybody, and every student knows how they can get to the reinforcer and how they're going to be punished or get a consequence that's going to be in the form of a punishment. And a reminder system just makes it fair. So if you get 2 checks or 2 X's, then you're going to clip down. If you don't get any, you're going to clip up. If you get 1, you're going to stay where you're at. Maybe you get 2 tickets, you get 0 tickets, whatever it's going to be, but they have some sort of warning about it. So just check that out. Next thing that I want to talk about are visual supports. There's a variety of a list of visual supports that you can look at that we have here. Some of the important ones are making sure that you have a schedule or a checklist of what they need to do. If they need more visuals, that you put visuals all around the room and help them out. Where do they find something? How do they need to go about? What's expected in this area of the room? What's expected in that area of the room? This wheel up here is a small conflex Kelso's wheel, and then there's another one that's down here that we have. Picture's not showing up right now, so I can't show it to you, but it's just a problem-solving wheel. And then if you look, there's also problem-solving solutions for high school students within here, so just take a look. Then we have a token economy system. So we're looking at when people say a token board or a behavior chart, sometimes looks like this too. First thing that you're always going to start with is having your rules or your expected behaviors, and then map out for the student, well, if you achieve your goal, what are you going to work for? And I suggest that you have a menu of things that they're allowed to earn at that particular time. And a student could be working towards 3. I might highlight only 3 boxes. They could be working towards 5. They could be working towards all 10, depending on your learner. And when they get to 10 or they get to that goal 3, they get to access their reinforcer. There is other behavior token economies in here too that you can look at to help out with students. Some other ways that we might do it is first, then, and time on, time off boards. Here's some examples of those too. Again, I start always with my expected behaviors, whether it's written down or pictured, depending on how old my students are, and then what they could do first, and then what they can have as a preferred activity. This is great. There's a whole bunch of them in here. So you have, and just feel free to email me for more, because I have these for high school level too. So we have our expected behaviors mapped out. You could use this for your middle school and high school kids too. If I do my work for this amount of time, I will, and I will be able to have some time off, which is non-work time. And I could do these types of activities. So maybe I can read my personal book, or I can do some drawing. I can, access certain activities on the computer and something else. And I could pick something or all of these during my time off. And maybe I am working for 15 minutes. I'm off for 5 minutes, working for 20, off for 5, whatever it is that you decide for your student. These are good motivators. These all help our students get from point A to point B. Another thing would be is to have an actual behavior contract written out. Here's a Spider-Man contract, which it says, I agree to, and blah, blah, blah. This would be your rules, your expected behaviors for whatever amount of time. When I do this, I will have this reward. If I do not follow the agreement, then this is going to happen. I might, lose something, access to something. I might not be able to get my TV at home, or my computer access, or my PS3 or whatever, PS4, whatever it might be. And there's a variety of different systems in here for you to take out. And then this little folder right here. So take a look of that. Workstations. When you're dealing with students that are doing independent work, it might be really challenging for them to be in a larger group. It might be really challenging for them to have distractors. They can't handle that. It's okay to have little workstations around your room, and some sort of visual guides to help those students be a little bit more successful so that they can get from point A to point B. And we've got some videos here to show you how to create some of those stations. Visual schedules are very important. So either you put a large group one on for your students, and if you're having a student that's really struggling with transitions and doing things, you might need something a little bit more specific for them, mapped out with every movement of the day. Maybe they're checking it off. But just remember that it needs to be visible. It needs to teach them how to use it. You might need to split the schedule. You need to make sure that they're trained using it and that you keep prompting them through it in the system. You can't just assume I'm going to hand over a visual schedule and all of a sudden the student's going to know exactly what is needed from them. Your other students might need no schedules whatsoever, especially if it's an after-school program or if it's a more non-structured area, but this student might need it more mapped out for them. They might need more structure in these unstructured environments. So you can create it just for that student to help them out. Here's what you do first. Go on to the monkey bars. Then you're going to go here. Then you're going to talk to 3 students. And then you're going to come and do your homework. Something of that sort. Make sure that the students know how to mark it off, or make sure that they know how to make it complete, whether they remove it or turn it over or whatever they might do. Remind them to continue to check the schedule and make sure if they start using the schedule that you're going to reinforce them for their good use of that schedule. Then we have Calming Corner. So every room, every program should have some access to a calming corner. And if you're moving from one room to the other, you can make this on a one of those white poster boards or those 3 folds where you have some visuals. If you see here, we have some visuals of the zones of regulation, and there's some ideas here for establishing that. And you get some visuals, and you have a little box with some calm down strategy things. I might have cue cards on how to calm down with deep breath. Use some good thinking. I might have a bunch of those kind of cards in there. I might have some squeezies in there. I might have something else that I might think stories of calming. I might have some access to some other things, and you could look at things of establishing the break area here, just so that a student can go to when they're struggling, and it's a safe space. It's not punishment, and we want to make sure we always give it as a choice. Hey, I see that you're feeling you look like you're getting a little anxious. This would be a great time to take a break in the calming corner. Would you like to do that there, or would you just like a squeezy right here, so that they don't feel like it's punishment? Because if it's punishment for them and they feel like it's a timeout from their preferred activities, they are not going to use it as a self-calming strategy, which is what we're trying to teach them. So make sure you're careful about your language. We don't want to make something a punishment when it doesn't have to be. These are some other great strategies, behavior strategies for students that are having a hard time. Having that alternate activity card ready for them. I have a folder with other activities, and I tell them, if you come up to a really hard task or a boring task that might cause some behavioral issues, instead of doing the behavioral issue, if you give me this card, I'm going to give you a much more preferred activity. And it's preferred math on math, reading on reading, writing on writing. So you want to make sure you keep that in mind. It's not to get out of doing math or my academics or my homework or whatever it might be. It's a replacement or an alternate activity to take away the stress and the boredom or whatever might happen. We also want to make sure that we always have our break cards. And I have written down here for this particular student what they could do during break time. It's very important. We always time these times. And then always, we want to motivate kids. Start handing out 5-minute reward cards, and they could use it right then, or they could save it and use it for a different time. You could have 1-minute cards, you could have 5-minute cards, whatever it is that you think you can handle within your program. When it comes to recess and unstructured environments, we need to make sure that we have rules established for these students, and we talk about them. You want to teach and review recess expected behaviors immediately before recess for these kiddos. If they got it the first time, they wouldn't be doing their behaviors. We want to reinforce students for expected behaviors during recess. So another person might need to know about their work that they need to do out there in the playground. And maybe for 10 minutes, you're going out there and you're reminding them once a week during this recess time so that there's a teaching moment for them. Teach students appropriate replacement behaviors during recess, and also reinforce expected replacement behaviors immediately after recess. It's very important. You want to also, whenever you put any behavior strategy in place, you want to modify a system that isn't working. So you want to ask yourself, is the target skill or behavior well defined? Have you given the system enough time to work? 1 week, 2 weeks? Is reinforcement occurring at a sufficient level? Is it coming so much, enough that the student is staying motivated? Or are you forgetting to do it one day and another day you do it, 2 days you forgot, and now they don't believe that it is even real, so they don't even try for it. Make sure that you keep it consistent. Is the reinforcer motivating enough to cause a change in behavior? Might not be motivating enough. Those pencils and sometimes those treasure boxes every day, they're not as effective. Maybe if you put some activity things into those treasure boxes where they can pull out a little activity card and all of a sudden now they could play with a friend for 5 minutes, or they could go on the computer for 10 minutes. Those are going to be reinforcing. Activities are always reinforcing. Are all team members using reinforcement in a consistent manner? We want to make sure that's happening. Are the students' peers reinforcing the problem behavior? How can we work on that? What can we do for those students to make sure that they try harder on not reinforcing that behavior? Hey, students, if you ignore, you're going to get check marks on your sheets, or you're clipping up, or something's going to happen for you because you're helping out your fellow peers doing the right thing. And then, are you reinforcing the problem behavior? Are you accidentally giving attention to your attention seeker? Are you arguing with your arguer? I mean, you have to think about it. Are you letting your escape artist escape? Well, you might be reinforcing the problem behavior, and you need to look at that. Stop doing that and then see if the behavior is going to change after that. Would it be beneficial to put the entire class on a behavior system? Well, I'm telling you, you should have the entire class on a behavior system already. Every space that you walk into should have some sort of behavior management reinforcer, some motivator for students to get from point A to point B. If we think that our students don't need that, or that they should just intrinsically, be in the space, that's not our students today. They're used to some high motivators coming at them at all times with the digital world. So we need to be just as reinforcing, especially for some of our other kiddos. Last thing on this slides is a very important website, and it's called pbisworld.org. And I'll tell you, this is a great website. If you click into this website, let's see if I can get a front page to it. Well, I can't get it today, but if you click into this website, you'll see all different behaviors. So if you look at the behavior that your student's having, which is aggression or off-task behavior or arguing, whatever it might be, you click into it and it'll give you so many different resources to help with that student. It's a great website. So go in there and play with that. And I'm so hope that you had learned something in this behavior strategies. Have a great day. Be well. And thank you for coming.